Good evening. I call to order the meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Burr Ridge for Monday, January 8, 2024. Janine, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Can I get a motion to allow Trustee Joe Snyder to attend by telephone? He has properly notified me and staff in advance that he would be in Florida for this meeting on business, and so he meets the requirements for a motion. One of you will make it.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Mayor.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Francis?
Here.
Trustee Schiappa?
Here.
Trustee Pavesa?
Here.
Trustee Snyder?
Here.
Trustee Matal? Here. Trustee Smith?
Here.
So,
Here. We do not have any presentations or public hearings tonight, so we are on item 4, the consent agenda. An item shall be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any one trustee. There has been a request to remove 7B, or anyone present at the meeting. Those items marked with an asterisk are considered on the consent agenda. A roll call shall be taken on the approval of the consent agenda and recorded in the minutes as an omnibus motion. If an item is removed from the consent agenda, it will be discussed by the board, open for public comment, and voted upon during this meeting. Meeting 5, minutes. A, approval of regular board meeting of December 11, 2023. B, receive and file ad hoc CNH committee meeting of December 13, 2023. 6, ordinances. A, approval of an ordinance amending the Village of Burr Ridge Personnel Manual. B, approval of an ordinance amending Section 2.68.1 of the Municipal Code of the Village of Burr Ridge. C, approval of an ordinance approving special uses for automobile sales, outdoor storage, and a fence, Z02 2023 60 Shore Drive, Nadaf, Coda Motors. D, approval of an ordinance approving a special use for a fence in a non-residential zoning district, Z11 2023 at 407 Heathrow Court, Fortress Plus Solutions. E, approval of an ordinance denying a variation from section 6F4 of the zoning ordinance to permit a floor area ratio of 0.26 instead of the 0.20 maximum regulation. V07 2023 6816 Fieldstone Patel. F, approval of an ordinance amending section 4132 of .32 of the zoning ordinance to increase the size of swimming pool equipment pads from 28 square feet to 48 square feet. Z14 2023 text amendment swimming pool equipment pad, Madden Downs Swimming Pool Company. 7, resolutions, approval of a resolution regarding the need for confidentiality at closed session minutes, of closed session minutes. C, approval of a resolution approving the annual publication of the Village of Burr Ridge zoning map. 8, considerations. B, approval of a fleet leasing plan for the Public Works Department. C, approval of request for a raffle license for Pillars Community Health and Hosting Facility, Marriott Chicago Southwest at Burr Ridge for its All in the PCH event on February 9, 2024. D, approval of a request for raffle license for Willowbrook Burr Ridge Chamber of Commerce and Hosting Facility license for 5 seasons for its Trivia Night on February 10, 2024. And E, approval of vendor list dated January 8, 2024 for fiscal year 2024 in the amount of $523,416.48 for all funds, plus $442,479.86 for payroll periods ending December 9, 2023 and December 23, 2023, for a grand total of $965,896.34. With that, can I have a motion to please approve the following items on the consent agenda? 5A and B, 6A, B, C, and D, E and F, 7A, 7C, 8, B, C, D, and E.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the trustees? Any discussion from the public? Roll call, please.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Mattal?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. It takes us to 7, resolutions B. Approval of a resolution amending the village capital asset planning and reporting policy for the village of Burr Ridge. Evan?
Thank you, Mayor. So this resolution, it would amend our capital asset policy to set the minimum value of a capital asset at $20,000, up from $10,000, and maintain a useful life of 1 year to qualify as a capital asset. So again, to be a capital asset, it has to have a useful life of at least a year, so a vehicle or cost at least $20,000. That also could include maintenance items, so if we were to do a major maintenance item on a specific item, that would also count as a capital asset, such as a roof or something like that. We're not building a whole building, but we are putting a significant amount of money into an asset already. The $20,000 amount aligns with my purchasing authority as village administrator. It would better distinguish more rigorous capital assets from day-to-day purchases. Our philosophy for this revision is that the revision will minimize the need to transfer money from the general fund to the capital fund, just to pay for current things in alignment with our current policy. So what happens right now, if I have just as an example, a $12,000 item that we need to buy, I need to transfer $12,000 from the general fund to the capital fund simply to pay for it out of that fund. A growing number of items are becoming capital assets simply by nature of the cost of the asset rising. So what cost $8,000 10 or 5 years ago now costs $10,000 or above, and is falling into that catchment of between $10,000 and $20,000, and thus the number of capital assets is simply growing over time. Again, the idea here is simply to reduce the number of capital assets we have in our CIP or the need to have further transfers. And again, anything that we would budget would have to come back to the board for authority, either through a budgetary approval or through a spending authority on an agenda item line item. So my authority, the way that works is I can only spend the $20,000 if the item is budgeted already. You can't spend $20,000 whole cloth out of thin air. If you give me $50,000 to spend on something, I need to bring that back to you. But if it's 15, I can spend that if both are in the budget without authority. That's my presentation. I'll be here to answer any questions.
So we'll start with Trustee Smith, who asked this to be taken off the consent agenda. Russ?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So, I've read this numerous times, and where I have a concern, and I'm not trying to create more work for staff by any means, it's just the message that I think this kind of sends to our residents. It shows that we are opening up the controls from 10,000 to 20,000, and where I really kind of get concerned is today things are going great. You're doing a fantastic job, staff's doing a fantastic job. Let's just, for instance, say 5 years, 10 years down the road, we have changes in your position, we have changes here at the board level. You have great controls, but maybe that other person that would backfill your spot maybe doesn't have such great controls. And I just feel that we're being less restrictive, we're not watching the numbers as we should if we raise the minimum to $20,000. And I just think if our residents were here in this room, would they be approval of what we want to pass up to $20,000, or would they feel better that we keep this restriction at $10,000? We're still getting the same work done, and I know there's a little bit more work on your part that has to complete that work, but I just think the message to our residents is try to keep the numbers lower so that we can manage against those smaller numbers, not the larger numbers. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, let me see if I understand this. You're just talking about a change of authority. The numbers, we'll still know about this money. It will be reported to the board. You're not asking any greater freedom to spend the money because we will still know about it. There's no way for you to spend $15,000 and we don't know about it, correct?
Correct. So let me give you an example. In the current year budget, there were accounted 7 items that totaled $65,000 total that were in the capital fund. Instead of transferring the money from general fund to capital fund, those items would still be budgeted in the general fund without the need to transfer the money from A to B. That is solely the authority that I'm looking for, is simply to reduce the number of items which necessarily must appear as capital items in the capital budget. But otherwise, the board, as I think you're all aware, gets that detailed budget with your draft budget, and you see every line item down to the penny what those things all transfer to. So again, to answer your question, Mayor, no, this does not increase staff's ability to spend money any more than we already do now.
Anybody have a question? Yes?
Evan, do you know what year the $10,000 figure was enacted?
So there's a two-part answer to that. The first is we've found evidence that the $10,000 limit has been an administrative policy since at least 1995. We did not have a formal capital policy until this board approved one in 2021, and that was at the recommendation of our auditor. But it really just took a GFOA budget, best practice budget is the board. I can move money within a department, so let's just say the training money was low and we needed to spend $5,000 and something else over there, I can move money within the department budget, but I can't transfer money as to your example. So the only people who can approve those budgetary transfers are the board. And I'm simply, this policy was solely intended just to make sure we had to have that transfer be as low as possible.
Okay, and then I will note for the record, and then we'll get right back to you, Russ. We'll note for the record, nobody's here. This has been on the agenda. There's nobody here objecting to it from the public. Go ahead, Russ.
Evan, didn't we just recently raise your expense capabilities as administrator? Didn't we just raise that to $20,000 not too long ago?
It went from 5,000 to 20.
Which now we're raising the minimum here from 10 to 20. I just, I get about inflation, 29 years, the evolution, but if we're not paying attention to the smaller things in our finances, can the bigger things sometimes sneak up behind us? And that's my concern. So, thank
I
you.
think that's a legitimate concern, but I think we will know about it. It's not that we're not going to know about it.
You get a copy of the GL every 2 weeks.
Right.
Right.
There's very specific items in the GL on what department and what fund it's coming and going from. And it follows along with the budget that we approve on an annual basis. This is money that that is budgeted, that you would move from, this isn't new money. This is all budgeted money that we approve as a board that you're gonna use to move. It sounds like it's a utility more than anything.
Yeah, it's simply about where things are ultimately end up in the budget as an attempt to make sure we minimize how many transfers are necessary to make the budget balance every year.
Okay, a utility is what it sounds like to me.
Fair enough.
Okay, so I think the safeguards are still there to the extent that Evan isn't here and somebody wants to go back to 10,000, the board can certainly do that if they wanted to, but I think it's a matter of efficiency, and to Trustee Smith's point, we now have a better explanation for it. We still know where the money is, but I think Evan is leading a very well-run village at this point, and if he thinks he needs this for it to be a little bit smoother, it doesn't change his power and it doesn't change the budget. As a mayor, I would think that this is okay. Unless there's any more questions, then I'm going to call the question. Can we get a motion to approve a resolution amending the village capital asset planning and reporting policy for the village of Burr Ridge?
So moved.
So moved.
So we have we'll take Joe as the second. So we have a movement and a second. Any discussion at the board level? Any discussion from the public? Roll call, please.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
No.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
5-1.
5-1, the motion passes. That takes us to item 8, consideration and discussion of migrants. I asked Evan to put this on the agenda tonight because it's been in the news a lot, and I haven't gotten too many questions, but I have gotten a few questions. We've also taken this up, we, in the sense of fellow mayors at different organizations, the DuPage Mayors and Managers. And as recently as this morning, I am on the executive board of the Metropolitan Mayors of Chicago Area Metropolitan Mayors Caucus. And it's about 275 municipalities around Chicago. I, with many other mayors, was also on a call with Mayor Johnson from Chicago about the migrants. And so it's been around, and I thought it was necessary that the public be made aware of facts. And so here are some of the facts. I did put out a message to everyone. Thank you for getting that out, Evan. I haven't gotten anything negative about it. And this morning, I confirmed with all the villages that people knew about around Chicago, and I asked, even though migrants are being dropped off at some of the train stations, we don't have a train station, and we have been, by the way, monitoring the Pace bus stop, but we don't have a train station. There were a couple of buses that were dropped off, at least a couple, at Hinsdale. There's been some at Glen Ellen, some other places that you probably know of. But I asked of all the mayors that were present, has anyone had any problems with any migrants from any of this movement in the last few months? And there was 0 problems. No one has had a problem. And you may recall, I'm sure you all do recall, that we had a migrant, migrants staying here in August of '22. We didn't know about it until it happened, but after we got the messages and we informed the public, we had no issues at all with the migrants that were here in Burr Ridge. So this is wherever your politics are, it's happening because of what's happening at the border, whatever your politics are on that. But right now, there is no problem in Burr Ridge. And from what I can tell from my fellow mayors in the 5 counties around Chicago, there are no problems in any of these counties. That's all I wanted to let everybody know. And if somebody has any questions or has any comments, of course, that's why we're discussing it tonight. Anyone? Yes.
Mayor, say something. Mayor, thank you very much for putting that article out there. I think it's good for everyone in our village to see that you're on top of everything and forward thinking rather than waiting till after something happens. So again, thank you.
Welcome, Trustee Francis.
Yes, thank you. So back in August of 2022, we had to react quickly when the migrants arrived in our village, and provided them with, they were provided with shelter, food, and the residents stepped up and provided them with donations of personal items and clothing and other items. So, but it was all in a hurry and all in a rush and all reactive. This I find is proactive. We don't have a train station, but we have a bus stop. And nobody anticipated a year ago that the city of Chicago would not want buses to drop migrants off in the city, and they would be dropped off in suburban train stations. Well, maybe those suburban train stations might be taken away and end up at bus stops. So we might have we don't know. We might have something happen here at our bus stop. But being proactive, I think, is the best thing. It's about the safety of the migrants and the safety of our residents. That's our #1 priority here as trustees here in a municipality, is safety. So anything we do to be proactive and to help the situation and ease this crisis that's occurring in Chicago, in other major metropolitan areas, and at the border, we need to do our part. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And I will add, of course, the chief and deputy chiefs have been keeping me apprised that there are no issues. So that's been fine, and so we are on alert. And I will also commend Chicago Mayor Johnson for calling all the mayors together, at least to update us with what was happening there and giving his perspective on things, and then taking time to hear our perspective. Again, whatever your politics are about what's happening, as Trustee Francis just said, it's our residents' safety, and of course, we can't compromise the migrants necessarily. It's not their point. They want to be here so that they can have a better life. I truly believe that, And of course, we are all the products of similar people trying to do similar things generations ago. So I will continue to keep everybody up to date. If there's a reason for me to send out an email or a Nixle announcement, I will do that. But I want to assure everyone that we are looking at it and there are no issues. Okay, with that, let's get to public comment. Is there any public comment? No public comment tonight. Let's get to reports and communications, and we start with Anita.
All right, well, Happy New Year, everyone. I hope your year's off to a great start. After the holidays comes the time of short days and cozying up at home with your family. And, you know, you can walk out and look at the lights in Burr Ridge. They're very, very pretty, and they make you smile. So enjoy that. And our management consultant, Claire Ness, is busy working, putting together a lineup of really fun and exciting activities in the village of Burr Ridge. So before you know it, it'll be spring and summer, and we will see everyone around. So Happy New Year.
Thank you. Anybody else? I
Yes,
just have-
Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Mr. Administrator, we've seen some, over the last couple of years, FOIAs and FOIAs. May I ask you for the top 5 individuals asking for FOIA requests and the cost, his cost to village, please?
Yes, I can provide the board that information. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, a couple of things for me. First of all, thank you, you beat me to it, but Happy New Year to everybody on the board and Burr Ridge. And it's going to be an exciting year, hopefully very positive, exciting, but there's stuff going on, and this is going to be a pretty exciting year. I want to also tell you, we have a new jewelry store in the village center. I was able to cut the ribbon on that. Really nice stuff. You want to maybe go down and look at some really nice jewelry. The construction that's going on has been delayed, apparently. They're still not done, and they don't seem close to being done. So we are monitoring that situation also, and I hope by our next meeting, it's almost all completed, but you know, we'll see. It's taken longer than I thought. All right, and that's all I have for tonight. Also, our next meeting right now is scheduled for January 22nd at 6:30. We'll see if we need that meeting. And by the way, we're starting to get into budget time, so you'll be hearing more from staff and Evan about what our plans are for the budget and when we plan to meet for the budget. I'll be respectful of everybody's time, but I think the way we've done it in the past has worked well, and we're probably going to do something the same or similar as last time. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn to January 22, 2024?
So move.
Second.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you.
Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at energysavers.gov.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
Traditional light bulbs